Pine to Oak for Sasquatch Duro bike event. City Administrator, do you want to read this or do you want me to? I'm happy to. There's consultation going on over there that might be important. Are we okay over there? Mr. Messina?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we're okay? Okay, good. All right, so, the proposed council action is a motion from the floor and a vote for the street closure. Mr. Ripley is here. He represents the Sasquatch Duro bike event. He's requesting the street closure on East First from Pine Street to Oak Street for Saturday, May 18th, 2019, from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. The ride starts at 10 a.m. and goes up Oak, finished by coming down Cedar. The duration is a maximum of 5 minutes to clear the first street through the closure on Cedar. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Wow.
5 minutes in the morning.
Woo-hoo. This is a timed event, with the rollout being slow and the ride down to Westford being slower also. The finish is east of Westford for the rider's time, and then they come back to Oakridge for the post-event food and fun. He has provided an application and filled it out for the street closure. And if we can get a motion, then we can open it up for discussion. Actually, would you like to just say a few words? This is the second year you've done this?
This is the second year. My name is Mike Ripley. I am in Monroe, Oregon resident. Grew up in Oregon, 1967. Mom worked at Sacred Heart in the kitchen for 38 years. My family moved here to work in the timber mills. So I'm a latchkey kid and grew up outside in the gravel. And it's a gravel grinding event, which is really mountain biking from outdoor possible recreation. I have 15 events and actually just got the first ever event's going to start in Seven Feathers Casino at the end of June. So I've never done that before. I checked that one off my list. So never started in a casino. So I love adventure, and I'm a bike rider and father of 3. And like I said, just wanted to put a face to a name. Appreciate the council's time. If anything I can do, what I got from the city last year with Louis was we picked up barricades at the police department, set them up at 6:30 in the morning. Had bike racks. We have a food truck that comes from Cowgirl Cooking. The whole community's welcome. Hopefully have a band this year and just make it a stellar, outstanding event. I'm open to, you can contact me anytime, any issues or anything. So.
Thank you, Mike. So I see that you're requesting an alcohol permit. You're gonna do a beer garden?
Yeah, we'll have beer that is monitored, not for sale. So it's part of the liability insurance. It's key is when you have to start selling it, it gets more tricky. So we keep it contained in Eugene's property there, not to exceed past a certain point. I usually hurt them quite a bit on the hills. They're not interested in drinking too much. They're probably looking to go sleep. So I try to punish them as much as possible. So the beer consumption's pretty minor, but it goes along good with the bowl of beans and avocados.
I was just wondering if you might answer that. Does it end up in Cottage Grove?
Oh, that's nice. That's leftover. No, it does not end up in Cottage Grove, sir. But that is a nice, we've talked with the city manager about connecting the 2 communities, so that could happen in the future. Oh, yeah, no, it's a hard ride. That's for a side-by-side.
That'd be a rough ride.
Okay, so council, this is the first time you've been presented with a permit of this kind. It goes through and explains what needs to be closed. It goes through and explains what the particulars are. He wants to do a PA system and a band. You'll notice that there's alcohol. And so what you're doing is giving approval for us to close that road. City Administrator, is there anything else I missed? Okay, any questions? Okay, can I have a motion?
Next motion.
Go ahead, Bobby.
I move that we approve the request for street closure of the First Street from Pine to Oak for the Sasquatch Duro bike event on Saturday, May 18th, 2019, from 6 a.m. until 5 p.m.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Stan, second. Before you did,
I didn't hear him. It was like, I have a hearing problem?
Can we go for the vote?
Councilor Holland?
Aye.
Councilor Hadley?
Aye.
Councilor Whitney?
Aye.
Councilor Barrington?
Aye.
Mayor Holston?
Aye.
Councilor Holcomb?
Aye.
All right, that passes. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, and I'll leave an extra copy up here if anybody wants to take it or contact me. I appreciate the community and congratulations on your new beginning as things move forward. I've been a long-time resident. I really appreciate you guys.
Are you gonna be looking for volunteers?
Oh, yes, definitely. We have, Rusty is our announcer. Hopefully she'll be back at Banner Bank. She likes the microphone, so that's good.
Awesome.
So,
Thank
anyway,
you.
thank you, guys.
Okay.
Have a wonderful.
Test well number 3 is directly across the street with a couple of people who have wells. Couldn't we just walk across the street to those people's houses and just ask for a $25 glass of water and save $38,000?
Thank you for that jocularity.
Just a suggestion.
Absolutely.
Save $38,000.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. Where are we here? Test well. I think we should color code this stuff. 11.5.1. Yeah. Mr. Messina, I'll let you proceed.
Mayor and Council, I'm actually our city engineer is in the house tonight, so I just want to turn this over to Ed on this.
Okay, thank you. I have obviously didn't get the memo about not bringing things to council, and I actually typically don't do this. But there's a couple of matters of importance I want to talk to the new council about, and the mayor, and the citizens of Oakridge. And so I brought some information I thought was important for you folks to have. Thank you. Okay, folks, my name is Edward Hodges. I'm a principal with Kern and McLeod, and I am your city engineer. I've worked here for a number of years, been in charge of a number of engineering endeavors, most recently the ongoing water project. And I guess I'll just jump in and start with the test well number 3. As many of you may be aware or may remember, there's a large water project ongoing at this time, and part of it was that we drilled a new well south of the community gardens. That well, unfortunately, turned out to have contamination from a chlorinated solvent called trichloroethene. And so a decision was made upon knowing this, or learning this, that the city really should look at some other options before going ahead and, say, installing an expensive decontamination system on the well. And one of the options that I recommended to you folks and was accepted was to look at really the last site that I know of for a new municipal well, and that is in the area of the Highway 58 rest area in Greenwaters Park. So to facilitate this, I went back to the funding agency and I got a grant, a low interest loan to perform this work. That was, I think, at the end of August when I started working on that, and then the funds have been received. And then I put out a competitive bid to 3 drillers to drill a test well in this area. I also worked with the city to find a good location in the park that didn't disturb the existing, features that are there, and also obeyed all of the laws that the state of Oregon has. You have to be 100 feet away from a septic field or a septic line, and many other rules and regulations. So you can't just sort of place a well willy-nilly if it's a municipal well. And so bottom line is that we did receive a bid from, actually the only bid of the 3 proposals that I sent out, from a local well driller, Casey Jones, and that was for $37,000, $37,180. The scope of this work is what we're going to do is drill essentially a 6-inch casing into a larger hole. And can everyone hear me, by the way? I know there's been some issues.
What was the figure you just quoted, the figures?
The figure for the cost of the well, $37,000, $37,180 each
For a test well or for a well?
for a test well.
Not a well.
No, not a well. And a couple of other things that Councilor has. So the scope of this work is that the driller is going to come, they are going to drill a hole down, to look at the geology that's there, to see possibly how deep bedrock is. That's always been one of the major concerns with that area. That's why it was left to last. Because for all of you who've walked around in Greenwaters Park, if you look across the river or you look in the river, there's bedrock. And so by pulling away from it, I can't give you any guarantees, but hopefully it's deep enough, there's enough soil and rocks and sediment that we can get a well in and get a decent yield out of it. The wells that were mentioned across the road are small. I've looked at those well logs, small diameter residential wells, but they produce quite well. They go down into rocks and sand, and so who knows? That could be encountered where this well is being drilled. So what we'll do is drill this boring. The driller will advance a 6-inch steel casing that's perforated if we find a decent water-bearing strata. And then we're gonna set that casing, then we're gonna do two things. We're gonna pump this well for an extended period of time. One, to see what the quantity, get an idea of how much water is gonna come out of it. And two, now, unfortunately, knowing what I know now about your groundwater in your community, I want to pump it as hard as I can for at least 24 hours so that it's then can be sampled for trichloroethene and other compounds of similar nature and see if there's any contamination in it. That would be, even if we had a good yield in that area, that would be really one of the most important steps at this point, given the history of other wells in this city. So I do recommend that you accept this bid, and then we will move forward. I'm hoping to have results to you. I can't guarantee it. It wouldn't be by the next meeting, but by mid to late February.
When you say you have results for us, you mean that what, test well, we would know something by that?
Yeah, I can at least tell you that, no, we can't have a well here at all. You know, we just hit bedrock. Or yeah, it appears to have decent water-bearing strata, and the pump test indicated that, you know, we could get a decent yield out of it. The analytical testing takes a little longer. You can collect the samples, and it'll take anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks to get them back. So I probably won't have that until March or so.
Okay.
But
So what you're saying is you're prepared to start quickly?
yeah, quickly, exactly.
Okay.
Who,
Go ahead, question.
who picked that spot?
You know, it was a combination of, well, the general area was picked by a geologist who was hired several years ago when I did the preliminary engineering study for the big water project that's going on. And then as far as the specific spot, that was really a combination of myself and the public works lead, Robert, and also Rick, the community development director. We just went out and looked and came up with a number of sites and settled on the one we were choosing.
Well, I was kinda curious, why didn't you guys go up on the other side by the fish hatchery, where we own the property there, above, that would be on the other side of the industrial park? Instead of below the industrial park, or where, do you have any idea where this contamination comes from?
No?
So, that's something that's
When
very
you say,
important.
now hang on, Councilor Hadley, when you say other side of the fish hatchery, do you mean that land, I always call it Little Texas, cause
Yeah.
it's a big, that
Right
was,
here above.
yeah, and I don't know if you remember, but this is the third test well. And the first test well I drilled was right smack there. That's where I wanted it, high, above, away from the industrial park, because I've always been worried about contamination from the industrial park. And it had almost no yield at all. There's soils that are not good for well, and we had to abandon it.
Well, I have a lot of questions.
I am,
And when Mr. Gomez said that you guys were over schedule, and he quoted that you guys had $250 a day for every day you were over,
Mhm.
do you have anything about that? What, how about that money and what's going on?
Oh, yeah, I have a lot about that, actually, and, if you would like to, you can either approve this, or I can talk about the project in general. It's up to you folks, what you'd like to do.
I'd like to table it
Well,
until the late, I'll make a motion to table this until later, so we can go through all the finances and the stuff that we're looking at right now for
Yeah.
what we've done. I mean, you got, to me, I'm looking at it, you got $2.6 million
Mhm.
that has gone into this, and I look on your contract, the original contract that you did, and what did we get for $2.6 million? And we got, out of the project, we got $415,000. There's a lot of questions, and that's why I say
415, yeah, okay.
415,000.
Is that on the front page?
This is your original contract. And why
Let me
should
interrupt
we
you
make,
for a minute. Are you asking when you say table this?
we'd like to table it to a later time?
A later time in this meeting?
Nope.
You don't
Later
want,
time.
you don't
So all
want
this
to talk about
council
the
is-
test well at all?
No, because our finances, can we afford this? We
Yes.
got, oh, you think we can afford it?
I believe you can, the
Well-
state says you
That's, you know, what I'm looking at is what has been done,
Mhm.
what we've got, and what do we got? No water, our water is not good now, we've spent this kind of money,
Well, this is specifically about the test wells that we have and where we're gonna put this
but you're
next well.
putting, but you're putting,
And
what are
we-
you putting this for? You're making an amendment to this contract, the original contract, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so why can't we go back and look at, and make another contract, maybe for what you have done through the past, with my experience, with the library, with a lot of stuff, with your deal? And are you an engineer, or are you an engineer consultant? Are you a PI?
PI.
PE.
I am a professional engineer registered in the state of Oregon. And I am the principal or co-principal of an engineering firm, which is currently Cloud. I'm also registered in the state of Washington as well.
Bobby?
One quick question, mostly for Dawn. You have the original contract that you're making some of your decisions off of, but the rest of us do not have it.
But that,
And isn't that, shouldn't we all have it if we're discussing?
you're absolutely right. All
All
you said is table it.
Just
That's why I want to table it.
Okay.
I actually kind of want to second them both. I don't feel, well educated enough from just the information I've been given to approve $38,000 when I know we potentially could be in a budget crisis. And then also what Bobby just said, I don't have all the same information that Mr. Hadley has. I don't feel like I'm making a fair decision either way. So I personally would like to see all the info.
So recognizing that there is some time constrictions here, I mean, the longer you wait to do your projects, the more the expenses go up. So we all know that. So what I hear from the council though is that you would like to have an opportunity to look over the entire budget of what we have spent, how much money remains, how much money we anticipate we may have to spend, and how that fits with our current financial situation. That's a huge chunk, is that correct? Am I saying that right for you?
It's not 38,000, how much is this for?
Answer my question.
Yes.
That is, okay. Mr. Messina, is that, I mean, is this doable? This is a huge chunk. And recognizing, I don't want the council to choose to do something that they're not comfortable doing. That is absolutely the bottom line. But I do want to know how this is going to impact the progress.
And one point I will make is that you're actually, of that $40,000 that we got, 20,000 of it's grant. So